High Commander Vextor of the Zarkanian Empire stood at the viewport of his flagship, mandibles twitching with barely concealed amusement as he observed the approaching human vessel. Its design was almost painfully crude by Zarkanian standards, all sharp angles and exposed radiators, lacking the elegant biomechanical integration that marked truly advanced civilizations. To think they actually achieved faster-than-light travel with such primitive engineering, he chittered to his second, Rauna. Their quantum processors must be little more than toys. Rauna's crystalline eyes flickered in agreement, but there was a note of caution in her response. The humans have progressed remarkably quickly, High Commander. Perhaps we should not be so quick to. Quick to what? Vextor interrupted, his iridescent scales shifting to a dismissive purple. They barely unified their planet a century ago. Their AI systems are still bound by ethical constraints. They haven't even begun to harness dark energy. He waved a clawed appendage at the view screen. No, they are children playing with tools they barely understand. Down on Earth, Dr. Maya Rodriguez was having a very different conversation in her quantum computing lab beneath the Rocky Mountains. Her fingers flew across the holographic interface as she analyzed the latest data stream from the Zarkanian delegation's diplomatic transmissions. There it is again, she muttered, more to herself than to her assistant, James Chin. The same quantum signature we detected last week, buried under layers of what they claim is standard communication protocols. James leaned in, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused on the data stream. Could be nothing. They did say their technology operates on different principles than ours. Maya shook her head, her dark eyes never leaving the stream of quantum fluctuations dancing across her screen. Different principles, sure. But physics is physics, regardless of what galaxy you're from. And this? She highlighted a particular pattern. This looks an awful lot like encrypted scanning data. She had been suspicious of the Zarkanians from the moment they arrived 6 months ago, all condescending pleasantries and barely veiled superiority. While Earth's political leaders were dazzled by their advanced technology and promises of cultural exchange, Maya had seen something else in their quantum communications, patterns that reminded her of military reconnaissance protocols. The Zarkanians had dismissed her quantum computing division as quaint, practically patting them on the head when they toured the facility. Their own quantum systems, they explained with patronizing patience, were so advanced that they had transcended traditional computing limitations. But Maya had a secret that the Zarkanians, in their arrogance, never bothered to discover. Her team had made a breakthrough in quantum computing 3 years ago, one they had kept carefully under wraps. While other labs focused on increasing qubit coherence time through brute force engineering, Maya had taken a different approach. Her system used quantum entanglement in a way that even the Zarkanians hadn't conceived of, allowing for processing capabilities that matched or exceeded their supposedly superior technology. Run it through the decoder again, she told James, pulling up another interface. But this time, let's use the new quantum interference pattern we developed last month. As the data began to process, Maya's suspicions solidified into certainty. Hidden beneath layers of diplomatic pleasantries and cultural exchange proposals, the Zarkanians were systematically mapping Earth's defensive capabilities, probing for weaknesses, and, most worryingly, coordinating with a much larger fleet hiding just outside the solar system. Send a priority message to Admiral Hassan, she said, her voice tight with controlled urgency. Tell him we need to meet immediately. And James? She turned to her assistant, her expression grim. Don't use any official channels. The Zarkanians are watching everything. Above Earth, High Commander Vextor continued his surveillance, utterly confident in his species' superiority. The humans were clever, he had to admit, in a primitive sort of way. But they were centuries behind the Zarkanian Empire in development. Their quantum encryption was child's play to break, their defenses laughably obvious to map. In a few more days, the invasion fleet would arrive, and Earth would become yet another subject world in the Empire's expanding territory. He had no way of knowing that at that very moment, in a lab deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, humanity was about to prove just how dangerous it was to underestimate those clever little apes and their primitive technology. The first sign that something was wrong came when Rauna noticed an anomaly in their quantum communications network. It was tiny, almost imperceptible, just a slight delay in the quantum entanglement synchronization. She dismissed it as routine variance, never imagining that it was the digital fingerprint of Maya Rodriguez's team, quietly infiltrating systems the Zarkanians had assumed were impenetrable. The game was about to change, and the Zarkanians were playing by the wrong rules entirely. Admiral Hassan sat motionless in Maya's lab, his weathered face illuminated by the quantum data streams flowing across the holographic displays. 20 years in Earth's combined space force hadn't prepared him for this moment. "You're absolutely certain?" Maya nodded, pulling up another layer of decoded transmissions. "The Zarkanians think their quantum encryption is perfect because it's based on their advanced understanding of entanglement. But they never considered that someone might approach quantum computing from a completely different direction." She gestured at a complex series of interlocking patterns. "We didn't try to match their technology, we went sideways. While they focused on manipulating quantum states directly, we developed a way to observe quantum interactions without disrupting them. It's like..." She paused, searching for an analogy. "It's like they built an unbreakable safe, but we figured out how to watch the tumblers move through the wall." James Chen pulled up another display, his cybernetic eye projecting additional data streams into the air. "We've identified at least 3 major fleet movements just beyond Pluto's orbit. They're using quantum-shifted gravity drives to stay hidden, but their communications leave ripples we can detect." Admiral Hassan leaned forward, his artificial hand clenching unconsciously. "How many ships?" "At least 200, Maya replied. "But that's not the worst part. Show him the weapon scan, James." A new hologram appeared, showing detailed schematics of Zarkanian weapon systems. "They've been testing our atmospheric shields with every diplomatic demonstration they've performed," Maya explained. Each cultural exchange exhibition was actually a carefully calibrated weapons test. "They've mapped our entire defensive grid." "Arrogant bastards," Hassan muttered. "They really think we're that primitive?" "Their arrogance is our advantage," Maya said, a slight smile playing at her lips. "They're so convinced of their superiority that they haven't bothered to check for intrusions in their own systems. My team has been quietly mapping their network architecture for months. We know their communications protocols, their command structure, even their weapons targeting algorithms." Above Earth, High Commander Vextor was growing increasingly pleased with his mission's progress. The humans continued to bumble about with their quaint technology, completely unaware of the noose tightening around their world. Or so he thought. "Final preparations are complete," Rauna reported, her crystalline eyes shifting through various spectral analyses. "The main fleet will arrive in 36 Earth hours. Our preliminary scans show their defensive capabilities are exactly as primitive as we expected." Vextor's scales rippled with satisfaction. "Excellent. Have our diplomatic vessel begin its withdrawal. We wouldn't want to be in range when the first strikes begin." But as the Zarkanian flagship initiated its departure sequence, something strange happened. Deep within its quantum core, a tiny subroutine activated, one that hadn't been there when the ship arrived at Earth. Maya's team had done more than just observe the Zarkanian networks, they had seeded them with dormant programs that were now beginning to awaken. In her lab, Maya watched the first digital tendrils of her quantum virus spread through the Zarkanian systems. It was beautiful in its own way, a human-created program dancing through alien quantum networks, gathering data and establishing backdoors that would prove crucial in the coming confrontation. "Admiral," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment, "I think it's time to implement Operation Looking Glass." Hassan nodded grimly. Throughout human history, overconfident powers had underestimated their primitive opponents, learning too late that innovation and determination could overcome superior technology. The Zarkanians were about to learn this lesson on a galactic scale. Maya's team worked through the night, their quantum systems interfacing seamlessly with the alien network. They discovered that the Zarkanians' quantum encryption, while advanced, was based on predictable patterns, a result of centuries of unchallenged technological supremacy. Like many advanced civilizations, they had optimized their systems for efficiency rather than security, never imagining that a primitive species could pose a threat. James coordinated with military installations worldwide, quietly preparing them for what was to come. The Zarkanians would be monitoring all official channels, so the real preparations had to happen in the shadows, guided by Maya's quantum-encrypted communications network. As the first hints of dawn began to color the sky above the Rocky Mountains, Maya made one final adjustment to her quantum virus. The program was elegant in its simplicity, designed not to destroy but to redirect, to turn the Zarkanians' own systems against them in ways their arrogance had left them vulnerable to. They think quantum computing has to follow their rules, she told James as they watched the program propagate. They've never wondered if there might be other ways to approach the problem. That's the trouble with thinking you're the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, you stop looking for alternatives. The Zarkanian fleet was now less than a day away from their planned attack. Soon, they would learn that humanity's primitive technology had evolved in ways they never imagined possible. The coming confrontation would reshape not just Earth's future, but the Zarkanians' understanding of what it meant to be an advanced civilization. In high orbit, Vextor's flagship continued its withdrawal, carrying within its quantum core the seeds of its own defeat, planted by the very primitives it had dismissed as unworthy of concern. The stage was set for a clash that would prove once and for all that true advancement came not from technological superiority, but from the creativity and determination to use that technology in unexpected ways. The Zarkanian invasion fleet emerged from quantum space in perfect formation, their biomechanical ships casting long shadows across the lunar surface. 200 vessels, each a masterpiece of alien engineering, moved with practiced precision toward their designated attack positions. At their center, High Commander Vextor's flagship pulsed with anticipation. "Begin the attack sequence," Vextor commanded, his scales shifting to the deep crimson of imminent victory. "Let's show these primitives what real power looks like." In the quantum computing lab beneath the Rockies, Maya watched the fleet's arrival on her holographic display. Her team had been awake for 36 hours straight, making final adjustments to their quantum virus. Now it was time to see if their gambit would pay off. "They're powering up their main weapons arrays," James reported, his cybernetic eye streaming tactical data. "Multiple targeting solutions forming, they're going to hit every major defense installation simultaneously." Maya nodded, her fingers dancing across the quantum interface. "Just as we predicted. Admiral Hassan, are your forces in position?" The Admiral's hologram flickered in the center of the lab. "All units ready. Though I still don't like hiding our fleet behind Jupiter. Feels like we're running away." "Sometimes," Maya said with a slight smile, "the best way to win a fight is to make your opponent think they've already won." The Zarkanian fleet's first strike was meant to be devastating, a simultaneous attack on every major military installation on Earth's surface. Their quantum-guided weapons were designed to bypass conventional shields, using technology they believed humans couldn't possibly understand, let alone counter. The weapons never fired. On the flagship's bridge, Vextor's scales paled to a sickly yellow as warning signals cascaded across his neural interface. "What's happening? Why aren't the weapons responding?" Rauna's crystalline eyes flickered in confusion as she accessed multiple systems simultaneously. "Unknown, High Commander. The targeting computers are online, power levels are optimal, but the quantum guidance systems aren't accepting commands." "Impossible." Vextor snarled. "Run a diagnostic. These are simple primitives, they can't interfere with our quantum systems." But they could, and they had. Maya's virus had spread throughout the fleet during their quantum space transition, hiding in plain sight within their own communications network. Now it was rewiring their weapon systems from the inside out, using their own quantum processors against them. "Sir," one of Vextor's officers called out, mandibles clicking in distress. "We're detecting anomalies in the fleet's command and control network. Something is accessing our systems." Deep in her lab, Maya allowed herself a moment of satisfaction as she watched the chaos unfold. "James, initiate Phase 2. The virus's second stage activated, spreading through the Zarkanian fleet like digital wildfire. It didn't destroy their systems, that would have been too obvious, too easy to counter. Instead, it subtly altered their quantum processors' basic functions, introducing tiny errors that cascaded into larger problems. Navigation systems began reporting incorrect positions. Communications became garbled with quantum noise. Weapon targeting computers showed phantom targets while ignoring real ones. "This is impossible," Ralna whispered, watching as system after system reported increasingly bizarre malfunctions. "Their technology is primitive. They couldn't possibly understand our quantum architecture well enough to." She stopped mid-sentence, her crystalline eyes widening with sudden understanding. "High Commander, I don't think they tried to understand our technology. They found a way to go around it." Vextor was about to respond and a new signal cut across all frequencies, a transmission that somehow broke through their quantum encryption as if it wasn't even there. "This is Dr. Maya Rodriguez of Earth," the message began, transmitted simultaneously to every ship in the Zarkanian fleet. "By now you've noticed some irregularities in your systems. Don't bother trying to trace this communication, it's not using any protocols you're familiar with. We took a different approach to quantum computing, you see. One you never considered possible because you were so certain your way was the only way." In the lab, Maya continued her transmission, her voice steady and clear. "Right now, your fleet is experiencing what we call a quantum cascade failure. Every attempt to correct it will only make it worse because you're still trying to solve the problem using your traditional methods. I suggest you power down your weapons and prepare to receive our terms." The Zarkanian fleet hung motionless in space, their superior technology rendered useless by an approach to quantum computing they had never imagined possible. And from behind Jupiter, Earth's combined fleet began to emerge, ships that appeared primitive on the surface but carried weapons guided by Maya's revolutionary quantum systems. Admiral Hassan's voice joined Maya's transmission. "You came to our world thinking us children playing with toys we didn't understand. You never considered that sometimes, children see possibilities that adults have forgotten to look for." As the Earth fleet moved into position, Vextor realized with growing horror that his invasion force, the pride of the Zarkanian Empire, had been outmaneuvered not by superior technology, but by the one thing his people's arrogance had blinded them to, the possibility that there might be more than one path to advancement. And in her lab beneath the mountains, Maya Rodriguez prepared to show the Zarkanians just how creative humanity's primitive technology could be. High Commander Vextor's flagship drifted in space, its quantum systems caught in an endless loop of cascading errors. Around it, the mighty Zarkanian fleet was in disarray. Ships that had been the pride of the Empire now moved like confused insects, their sophisticated targeting systems showing thousands of phantom Earth vessels while being blind to the real ones approaching from Jupiter's shadow. "Shut everything down," Vextor commanded, his scales now a pale gray of desperate realization. "Reboot all quantum systems." "We can't, High Commander," Ralna replied, her crystalline eyes shifting through spectrum after spectrum, searching for a solution. "The quantum cores are locked in some kind of recursive loop. Every attempt to shut them down triggers a deeper level of encryption." Through the command deck's viewport, Vextor watched as the Earth fleet took up attack positions around his scattered forces. The human ships looked crude, almost primitive, with their angular designs and visible weapon mounts. But appearances, he was learning far too late, could be devastatingly deceptive. In her mountain laboratory, Maya orchestrated the final phase of humanity's defense. Her quantum virus had done more than just disable the Zarkanian fleet, it had turned their own sensors against them, creating a virtual hall of mirrors that made tactical coordination impossible. Admiral Hassan, she called through the quantum-encrypted channel, their fleet is fully compromised. You can begin the demonstration. The Earth fleet's first volley wasn't meant to destroy. Instead, precisely calculated energy pulses struck the Zarkanian ships, disrupting their biomechanical hulls just enough to show what human weapons could do. It was a display of power, but also of restraint. Their armor is failing. James reported, his cybernetic eye streaming battle data across the lab's holographic displays. The quantum disruption is preventing their adaptive shields from compensating. Maya nodded, watching as the Zarkanian fleet's formation continued to deteriorate. Send the second message. Across every quantum frequency the Zarkanians could still access, Maya's voice rang out clear and steady, your ships are dead in space. Your weapons are useless. Your supposedly superior quantum technology has been turned against you. But notice that we haven't destroyed a single vessel, though we could have. We're not the primitives you thought we were, and we're not the barbarians you feared we might be. On his flagship's bridge, Vextor received the transmission with a mixture of rage and dawning respect. His mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed the implications of their complete defeat. Centuries of Zarkanian technological supremacy had been undone not by a superior force, but by a completely different way of thinking about quantum mechanics. High Commander, Ralna said softly, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the human fleet. Their weapons, they're not based on any technology we've seen before. They've developed something entirely new. Maya's voice continued, what you're detecting now is the result of our quantum research program. While you were perfecting your existing technology, we were exploring new possibilities entirely. We don't want war, High Commander. What we want is dialogue, real dialogue, between equals. Admiral Hassan's fleet maintained their encirclement, their weapons primed but not firing. The message was clear, humanity could destroy the Zarkanian fleet, but they were choosing not to. In the tense moments that followed, Vextor made a decision that would reshape the relationship between their civilizations. His scales shifted to the deep blue of formal submission as he opened a channel to Maya's lab. Dr. Rodriguez, he said, his translator struggling to convey the complex emotions in his voice, the Zarkanian Empire acknowledges your innovative approach to quantum mechanics. We request immediate cessation of hostilities and the opening of genuine diplomatic relations. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Accepted, High Commander. Now, shall we discuss the terms of a real cultural exchange? One where both sides have something to learn from each other. As the tension of imminent conflict dissolved into the more subtle challenges of diplomatic negotiation, James turned to Maya in the quiet of the lab. You know, he said, his cybernetic eye focusing on the holographic display of the now peaceful fleets, they're going to want to know how we did it. Of course they will, Maya replied, watching as the first tentative communications began between the two fleets. And we'll show them, after they understand that different doesn't mean primitive, and that true advancement comes from being willing to question your own assumptions. The Zarkanian fleet began powering down their weapons, their quantum systems slowly recovering as Maya's virus released its hold. On Earth, news of the averted invasion spread rapidly, along with the realization that humanity had just announced its presence on the galactic stage in a way that couldn't be ignored. Admiral Hassan's hologram flickered in Maya's lab one last time. The Zarkanian High Command is requesting permission to send a scientific delegation to study our quantum computing techniques. Apparently, they're particularly interested in what they're calling the Rodriguez method of quantum manipulation. Maya laughed. Tell them we'll be happy to arrange an exchange of ideas. After all, that's what equals do. Above Earth, the combined fleets of two civilizations hung in space, one with its sleek biomechanical designs, the other with its sturdy, practical engineering. Different approaches to the same challenges, now poised to learn from each other rather than fight. 6 months after the failed invasion, the Rocky Mountain Quantum Research Facility had some unusual visitors. Zarkanian scientists, their iridescent scales shifting with excitement, crowded around Maya's quantum computing arrays, their crystalline eyes taking in every detail of the human approach to quantum mechanics. Fascinating, chittered Dr. Tal, the lead Zarkanian quantum physicist. You bypassed the traditional quantum entanglement matrices entirely. Instead of forcing quantum states to conform to our standard models, you found a way to dance with them. Maya nodded, watching as her former adversaries became eager students. We had to. Without your level of technological development, we couldn't brute force our way through quantum computing problems. We had to find another path. The lab had become a symbol of the new relationship between Earth and the Zarkanian Empire. Where once there had been condescension, now there was collaboration. The Zarkanians had learned a harsh but valuable lesson about the dangers of technological arrogance, while humanity had gained access to centuries of advanced scientific knowledge. James Chen, now heading his own research division, led another group of Zarkanian engineers through the facility's newer sections. His cybernetic eye had been upgraded with Zarkanian biomechanical components, while the Zarkanians themselves had begun experimenting with human-style digital interfaces. The Rodriguez method has revolutionized our understanding of quantum mechanics, Tal admitted to Maya as they watched the exchange of ideas. Our empire spent centuries perfecting one approach, never imagining that there could be entirely different ways to solve the same problems. In orbit above Earth, the changes were even more dramatic. The combined human Zarkanian defense fleet showcased the strengths of both civilizations. Sleek Zarkanian bioships now flew alongside angular human vessels, each incorporating technologies and design philosophies from the other. Admiral Hassan, supervising the joint fleet exercises, could hardly believe how much had changed. 6 months ago, they thought we were primitives, he remarked to Maya during one of their regular strategy sessions. Now they're incorporating our primitive innovations into their newest ship designs. That's because we showed them something they'd forgotten, Maya replied, reviewing the latest quantum computing breakthroughs on her holographic display. True advancement doesn't come from perfecting what you already know. It comes from being willing to question everything you think you understand. The impact rippled far beyond Earth and the Zarkanian Empire. News of how humanity had outmaneuvered one of the galaxy's most technologically advanced civilizations spread rapidly through interstellar channels. Other spacefaring races began to look at Earth with new interest, and at their own technological development with new perspective. In the Zarkanian Empire itself, the changes were profound. The rigid hierarchy that had stifled innovation for centuries began to crack. Younger Zarkanians, inspired by Earth's example, started questioning traditional approaches to everything from quantum physics to social organization. High Commander Vextor, now serving as the Empire's ambassador to Earth, had undergone perhaps the most dramatic transformation. His scales, once predominantly showing the purple of superiority, now regularly displayed the green hues of curiosity and learning. We thought we were coming to teach primitives, he told Maya during a diplomatic reception. Instead, you taught us that there is no single path to advancement. The galaxy is richer for having humanity in it. Maya's quantum virus, the tool that had turned the tide of battle, became the foundation for a new field of quantum computing. Zarkanian and human scientists working together discovered that by combining their different approaches, they could achieve results that neither civilization could have managed alone. In her lab, Maya kept a small hologram of the confrontation that had changed everything, the moment when humanity proved that innovation and creativity could overcome even the most advanced technology. It served as a reminder that true progress often came from unexpected directions. The funny thing, she told James as they watched a new group of human and Zarkanian students working together in the lab, is that none of this would have happened if they hadn't underestimated us. Their arrogance gave us the time we needed to develop our own solutions. James nodded, his cybernetic eye recording the historic collaboration for posterity. Sometimes the best way to advance is to be underestimated. It gives you room to innovate without pressure. As Earth took its place among the galactic community, the story of how a primitive civilization had outthought rather than outfought one of the galaxy's great powers became legend. It served as a reminder that true advancement came not from technological superiority, but from the wisdom to recognize that there was always more to learn, always another way to solve a problem. And in quantum labs across two civilizations, humans and Zarkanians worked side by side, each bringing their unique perspective to the challenges of understanding the universe. They had learned that the greatest breakthroughs came not from believing you had all the answers, but from being willing to admit that someone else might have asked better questions.